Hello everyone, let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself fascinated by someone who at first barely noticed you? Maybe she smiled politely, maybe she kept her distance, maybe she even seemed a little guarded, and yet somewhere inside you felt this quiet pull. Not a need to conquer her, not a game to win, but a curiosity. What would it take for her to truly see you? Now, here's the thing, attraction isn't only about looks, status, or clever words. It's about something much more subtle. It's about how you make her feel in your presence, how you occupy space, how you create an emotional world where her mind keeps returning to you, even when she tries not to. Most men think they need to prove themselves to win a woman's attention. But obsession, the kind that lingers in her thoughts late at night, is not built by chasing. It's built by understanding the art of desire, the dance between closeness and mystery, between making her feel deeply understood and keeping her slightly hungry for more. Today I want to take you into that art. 8 subtle, almost invisible ways to awaken a woman's intrigue even if she isn't interested right now. This isn't about manipulation. It's about awakening something she didn't know she wanted. Have you noticed how some men walk into a room and without saying a word they shift the energy? No one can quite put their finger on it, but women, they notice. Not always consciously, not always with instant desire, but there's a flicker, and that flicker, if you understand it, can become a flame. The truth is, we live in a culture that teaches men to either perform or withdraw. You are told, be confident, be bold, take the lead, or if that fails, pull back, play hard to get. But real attraction isn't a set of tricks. It's a slow burn of presence, attention, and the right kind of unpredictability. This is why the first secret is not about what you do to her. It's about what you do to yourself. You see, obsession begins when she feels that your world is already full and alive without her, that you are not scanning the room for validation, that you are centered. When you are at ease in your own body, in your own skin, you project something magnetic. A woman who is not interested might not feel instant desire, but she will notice that you are different, that you are not waiting for her to make you feel significant. It's almost paradoxical. The less you make her your mission, the more she starts to wonder about you. I often tell men, she must feel you are a man in motion, not a man in waiting. That means your hobbies, your passions, your friendships, your fitness, your sense of humor. These are not performances for her attention. They are simply part of your life's texture. And if she happens to glance into that world, she should see richness there. Now, when I say centered, I don't mean aloof or cold, I mean rooted. Imagine you are a tree, grounded strong, with branches open to connection, but not bending desperately toward anyone who passes. If she senses that you are the kind of man who can hold his own center, she will lean in to see what that feels like, even if she wasn't looking your way before. From there, we move into something that may sound contradictory, but it's essential, the art of noticing her in a way she's not used to. Noticing is not the same as chasing. Most men notice in clichés, you're beautiful, I like your smile, you look great tonight. These are pleasant, but they fade instantly because they tell her nothing new about herself. Real noticing requires you to see what others overlook. Maybe you comment on the way she pauses before she answers a question, as if she's weighing something unspoken. Or the way her laugh changes when she's genuinely amused compared to when she's just being polite. Or how her energy shifts when she talks about a subject that matters to her. When you speak to those moments, you do something subtle, you show her that you see beyond the surface. And for many women, that is intoxicating. Why? Because in a world where so much attention is shallow, depth feels rare. She may not have been interested before, but suddenly she's curious. She wonders what else you might notice. I remember speaking to a woman once who told me, the man I fell for wasn't the one who had the best looks or the best lines. He was the one who saw me fidget with my necklace during a tense conversation and asked what was on my mind. No one else had ever noticed that. Do you see? It wasn't a grand gesture, it was an attunement. But here's the key, you cannot fake this kind of attention. If you're only scanning her for details so you can score points, it will feel invasive. You have to genuinely care. Curiosity is the bridge here, and curiosity, when paired with that grounded presence, is disarming. She might even find herself opening up to you without realizing it. There's a third element that ties these two together, and this is where obsession begins to germinate. The careful use of absence. When you've created an impression of depth and presence, stepping back slightly creates space for her mind to wander toward you. The mistake most men make is either being too available or disappearing entirely. Obsession thrives in the middle ground. Think of it like this, when you share a moment of connection, a conversation, a glance, a shared laugh, and then you don't immediately flood her with more. You allow that moment to breathe. You give her time to replay it in her head. And if she is replaying you, she is starting to think about you when you are not there. That is the seed of obsession. Absence is not punishment. It is not ghosting. It is simply the confidence to let her miss you, to be willing for her to wonder, where is he? What's he doing? Who is he with? This gentle uncertainty is a powerful fuel for desire, because the human mind cannot help but fill in the blanks, and often it fills them with intrigue. Now, I want you to imagine these three forces working together: a man who is rooted and self-contained, who notices her in ways that make her feel deeply seen, and who does not cling but creates space for her to miss him. Even a woman who began with no particular interest will find herself thinking, who is this man? And once she begins to ask that question, you are no longer just another face in the crowd. The beauty of this is that it's not manipulation, it's alignment. You are becoming more magnetic by being more yourself, but in a way that's intentional, attuned, and unhurried. And when you embody this, the rest of the secrets we'll explore will not feel like tactics. They will feel like an extension of who you already are. When you have built that initial foundation, the sense that you are rooted, the subtle act of truly noticing her, and the art of giving space, something changes in the dynamic. She begins to feel both safe and slightly uncertain with you. Safe, because you are grounded and not seeking her approval; uncertain, because she cannot quite predict you. And it is in that tension between safety and mystery that desire grows. You see, desire needs oxygen. Too much control, too much predictability, and it suffocates. Too much distance, and it loses interest. The fourth element I want to bring into our conversation is your capacity to create emotional contrast. Many men think attraction is about being steady all the time, always agreeable, always accommodating. But obsession isn't built on neutrality. It's built on moments that feel alive, dynamic, unexpected. Imagine this: you are in a conversation with her, and she is telling you a story. You are attentive, leaning in, eyes on hers. Then suddenly you challenge her gently on something she says, not aggressively, not to undermine her, but to spark a playful debate. Maybe she says she could never see herself traveling alone, and you smile and say, I don't believe that. I think you'd surprise yourself. That shift from deep listening to light provocation makes the moment vivid. She feels you not just as a calm, agreeable man, but as someone who can awaken different emotions in her. It's the same reason why some conversations feel unforgettable. They have texture. If every exchange is soft and predictable, she may like you, but she won't think about you when she's lying in bed at night. But if you can draw out her laughter, her curiosity, her slight irritation, and her intrigue in the same evening, that's when her mind starts to look back to you. The way to master this is to be attuned to her emotional temperature. If she's sharing something vulnerable, you stay with her there. If she's playful, you match it. If she's guarded, you invite her out, not by pushing, but by creating a safe moment for her to step forward. Women don't obsess over men who only fit into one emotional lane. They obsess over the man who feels like a living experience. The fifth layer of this is something most men underestimate: the art of holding secrets. Not secrets that breed distrust, but the kind that invite curiosity. You don't need to tell her everything about yourself immediately. In fact, the more you reveal gradually, the more she leans forward. When she asks you about your past, you don't give the full story in one sitting. You give a piece and let it rest. You make her feel that there are chapters of you she hasn't yet read. In a world of oversharing, mystery is magnetic. Think of the last time you met someone who didn't spill their life story all at once. Weren't you more intrigued? Didn't you wonder about them later? When a woman feels she has to earn her way into your deeper layers, she values them more when she gets there. And obsession thrives on that sense of gradual discovery. But here's the catch: this isn't about being evasive or manipulative. It's about pacing intimacy. Too many men rush to open every door, thinking that vulnerability will fast-track attraction. Vulnerability is powerful, but it's most powerful when it's proportionate to the trust built. Give her something to imagine. Give her reasons to wonder about you when you're not there. This brings me to another subtle but potent force: the way you make her feel when you're with others. This is not about jealousy in its raw, destructive form. It's about social proof, but done with grace. When she sees you interact warmly and confidently with others, men and women alike, she witnesses your value without you having to proclaim it. If she sees other women laugh at your jokes, lean in to hear you speak, or light up when you greet them, it shifts something in her perception. We are wired to notice what others value. When she sees that you are respected, liked, and sought after, it creates a quiet competitive spark. Even if she wasn't interested before, she now has to reconcile with the fact that others find you appealing, and often that curiosity becomes attraction. But, and I cannot stress this enough, this only works when it's authentic. You are not parading yourself to make her jealous. You are simply being your full, charming self in the world, and she happens to see it. This is the difference between genuine magnetism and cheap theatrics. The former pulls her in naturally, the latter pushes her away. The moment you combine emotional contrast, mystery, and the quiet display of social value, you step into a different category of man in her mind. You are no longer defined by whether she initially wanted you. You are now someone she wants to understand, someone who feels rare, and rarity in human psychology is irresistible. It's also worth noting that for many women past 30, attraction is not just about a thrill. It's about the potential of being with someone who can hold depth and excitement over time. You are showing her not just a spark, but the promise of a fire that can burn in different colors. That is where short-term curiosity can turn into long-term captivation. And while all of this might sound intricate, it really comes down to one thing: living as a man who is worth being obsessed over, whether or not she ever notices. That authenticity is the anchor. Without it, every technique collapses into performance. With it, every interaction becomes an invitation for her to lean closer. By now, you can probably sense that this isn't about putting on a performance. It's about creating an experience, an emotional landscape in which she can't help but notice you, think about you, and slowly crave more of your presence. And if we've built the roots, presence, noticing, space, emotional contrast, mystery, and social magnetism, then we are ready to tend to something far more intimate, the way you invite her into moments that feel different from her everyday life. One of the most powerful ways to do this is by creating what I call pockets of timelessness. In a world that runs on schedules, deadlines, and constant stimulation, moments that feel unhurried and deeply present stand out. If you can create a conversation, an encounter, or even a shared silence where she loses track of time, you've created an imprint. She may not even know why she's thinking about you days later, but it's because she felt herself drop into the moment with you. This isn't about grand gestures. It can be as simple as sitting across from her at a cafe, asking her a question that no one else has asked, and then really listening, or walking together and letting the conversation wander into something meaningful. Her childhood dreams, a story she hasn't told in years, a random thought she shares that you treat with genuine curiosity. Why does this matter? Because obsession doesn't come from constant attention, it comes from moments she feels. And if you can offer her a moment that feels rare, where she is more herself than usual, she will start associating you with a version of herself she likes. That is addictive. People return to the places where they feel most alive. From there, we move into something that is deceptively simple, but endlessly potent: the art of subtle touch and proximity. Now, this is not about physical escalation in the stereotypical sense. It's about the unspoken language of presence. A hand on her back as you guide her through a doorway, your knee brushing hers briefly as you sit close, the way you lean in just enough to speak softly so your voice belongs to a space that only the two of you share. These small moments, when timed well, awaken an awareness of you in her body. She may not consciously think, "Touched me." Instead, she feels a shift, a slight quickening, a warmth. And here is where restraint becomes your greatest ally. If you flood her with touch, it loses its meaning. If you use it sparingly, each moment becomes charged. I once heard a woman describe a man she couldn't stop thinking about. They had spent an afternoon together, and the only physical contact had been him brushing a strand of hair from her face once, and his hand lingering on her shoulder for a second as he said goodbye. "I don't know why," she told me, "but it stayed with me for days." That's the power of subtlety. It's the mind, not the body, that keeps replaying it. And yet, even with all these layers, there is one thing that amplifies every other element: the way you leave her feeling after she's been with you. People often remember the peak of an experience and the end of it more than the middle. If you can leave her with the feeling, not just a memory of what you said, but a sense of how she felt in your presence, you become the man she talks about in passing, the man who lingers in her thoughts when she's cooking dinner, the man who shows up in her dreams. So when you part ways, don't rush it. Don't leave in a way that feels abrupt or transactional. Let there be a moment, a smile that lasts a heartbeat longer, a sentence that invites reflection, a goodbye that feels like it holds more than it says. That lingering energy is the last sip of wine that stays on her tongue. Here's what's beautiful: you don't need her to fall at your feet in the moment. In fact, it's better if she walks away thinking she's clear about how she feels, only to find herself thinking of you unexpectedly 2 days later. Obsession isn't always born in the heat of the moment. Often, it's born in the quiet after. When all of this comes together, your grounded presence, your rare noticing, the space you allow, the emotional contrast, the mystery, the social magnetism, the timeless moments, the subtle physicality, and the lingering feeling, you stop trying to convince her. You've already done something far more powerful. You've engaged her imagination. And once her imagination starts working in your direction, there is no going back to indifference. The great irony is that none of this is about forcing her to want you. It's about becoming the kind of man who naturally evokes want, because you are intentional, aware, and alive in the way you move through the world. And if she's not interested in the beginning, you've given her every reason to reconsider without ever asking for her reconsideration. There's something fascinating about attraction that blooms slowly. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or loud confessions. It's quieter, almost invisible at first, like a vine wrapping itself around the edges of her thoughts. And yet, over time, it becomes impossible to ignore. This is where most men lose patience. They want immediate validation, a sign that she's interested. But obsession is not a sprint. It's a slow weaving of threads, each one so subtle she doesn't notice until the tapestry is already there. If you want her to feel drawn to you in a way she can't easily shake off, you must learn the rhythm of reveal and retreat. We touched on this earlier with absence, but over time, it becomes something more deliberate. A dance of closeness and distance that keeps the connection alive without suffocating it. When you share a moment with her, an unusually deep conversation, a laugh that leaves you both breathless, a glance that feels loaded, you don't immediately flood her with your availability. You let that moment breathe. You give her space to turn it over in her mind. You don't fill every gap with a message or an invitation. Think of it like a song. If it's all chorus and no pause, it becomes noise. But the silence between notes, that's where the music settles into the listener's bones. In relationships, that silence is where her imagination works for you. It's where she replays your words, notices how your voice sounded, wonders why you lingered for a second before leaving. Of course, this rhythm only works when paired with consistency of character. The man she's getting to know in these moments has to feel stable, reliable, rooted, because mystery without stability feels unsafe. But stability without mystery feels flat. When you balance both, you give her something rare, the sense that she can trust you and that you still surprise her. Over time, another powerful force comes into play: emotional anchoring. This happens when you become the person tied to certain emotional states in her mind. If you're consistently the one she shares her little victories with, the one who can make her laugh when her day is heavy, the one who listens when she needs to unravel her thoughts, she begins to associate you with those feelings. And here's where it becomes almost impossible for her to stay indifferent. When she thinks of joy, she thinks of you. When she thinks of safety, she thinks of you. When she thinks of excitement, she thinks of you. Even if she tries to resist, those emotional associations start to pull her in without her consent. But be careful. This isn't about being her therapist or always being the fixer. That can lead you into a dynamic where she appreciates you but doesn't desire you. To keep obsession alive, you need moments that are playful, teasing, even a little challenging. You can comfort her when she's vulnerable, yes, but you can also throw her a grin that says, "Don't get too comfortable. I might surprise you." There's a reason women often speak of certain men as dangerous in a way that excites them. It's not about recklessness. It's about the sense that being with him is never entirely predictable, even though he makes her feel secure. That paradox, safety and thrill, is the birthplace of enduring desire. As time passes, shared experiences become another anchor point. This doesn't mean expensive trips or elaborate dates. It means moments that feel like they belong only to the two of you. Maybe it's an inside joke that no one else would understand. Maybe it's a little ritual, the way you always split dessert, the songs you put on when you're cooking together, the spot in the park where you always end up sitting. These shared moments become your private world. And a private world is intoxicating because it's exclusive. She can have friends, colleagues, admirers, but what she has with you is hers alone. Even if she wasn't interested before, that sense of exclusivity will shift her feelings. And here's something else that deepens obsession: allowing her to invest in you. Most men think they have to do all the giving to win a woman over. But the truth is, the more she invests, with her time, her stories, her energy, the more she feels connected. So let her contribute, let her share advice, let her plan something for you, let her bring a little of herself into your world. When a woman invests, she begins to feel a subtle sense of ownership. She doesn't just see you as someone she knows. She starts to see you as someone she's building something with, even if it's unspoken. And that investment can transform mild interest into deep emotional attachment. Through all of this, remember, the goal is not to manipulate or trap her. It's to create a connection so layered, so textured, that she would genuinely miss it if it disappeared. And the beauty is, once you learn to create this kind of connection, you'll never need to chase again. Because even if she doesn't notice you at first, you'll know how to make her feel something she can't ignore. You've come a long way in understanding what it means to truly captivate a woman, especially when she might not have been interested at first glance. The journey isn't about games or facades. It's about embracing a deeper way of being, a way that invites curiosity, connection, and a subtle longing that grows stronger over time. By now, you know that obsession is not born from desperation or pressure. It's born from presence, the kind of presence where you are fully yourself, not trying to prove your worth, but living it quietly and confidently. When you cultivate that grounded self, it ripples outward. Women pick up on that authenticity, even if they don't say it aloud. It makes you stand apart in a world that often values flash over substance. You also understand the power of seeing her, really seeing her, not just with words but with your attention. This act of genuine noticing makes her feel valued beyond the usual surface compliments. It tells her that you recognize the parts of her others overlook. That kind of connection, even if it starts subtly, creates a space where desire can grow. At the same time, you've learned to respect the balance between closeness and distance. Giving her space doesn't mean withdrawing your interest. It means trusting that your worth doesn't depend on her immediate approval. When you step back after moments of connection, you allow her imagination to work in your favor. She begins to wonder, to replay, to long for more. And that's where obsession quietly takes root. You've seen how emotional contrast, shifting between playfulness and depth, challenge and comfort, brings a dynamic alive. A relationship or even a budding connection thrives in that push and pull. It's the dance of unpredictability grounded in stability that keeps her intrigued and wanting to know more. Mystery, too, plays its role, not as a trick but as a natural pace of unfolding yourself. When you don't reveal everything all at once, you invite her into a story she wants to read chapter by chapter, and when she watches you interact with others with ease and confidence, it adds a layer of social proof that heightens her interest without forcing it. The moments you create together, those pockets of timelessness, become the memories she cherishes, the subtle touches, the lingering goodbyes, the private jokes. These are the invisible threads that tie her attention to you in a way that feels effortless and real. Over time, you build emotional anchors in her mind. You become the man tied to her laughter, her comfort, her excitement, and when she invests in you, with her time, her stories, her energy, she creates a bond that's difficult to break, not because of obligation, but because it feels good to be with you. And here's the final truth: this process doesn't make you less of yourself. It makes you more intentional, more present, more alive. It's about becoming the man who invites a woman to not just notice him, but to desire him in ways that surprise even herself. So if you're watching this and wondering where to start, remember it begins inside. Ground yourself, cultivate your interests and passions, practice seeing others deeply, trust the rhythm of connection, the reveal and retreat, the closeness and distance. Build moments that linger, and always bring your full, authentic self, because when you do, the question isn't if she'll notice you, it's when. And when that moment comes, it won't just be fleeting. It will be the start of something she can't quite let go of. If this spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced moments where a connection grew unexpectedly? Or are you ready to try a new way of relating? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you want more conversations like this about love, desire, and the art of connection, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the journey of understanding relationships is one we're all on together. Here's to being present, to being seen, and to inviting love in ways that surprise us.